And now see if you can bring your attention to your rib cage and your stomach. And as you breathe in, see if you could notice where exactly you expand. Just your regular breathing. What parts of your body moves? And now I want you to start exaggerating your breaths in. So breathe in kind of hard through your nose. And notice how much easier it is to pay attention to that, and also how much easier it is to notice where you expand. So just breathe in a little harder. Just continue to do that. And I'll take a break from breathing in hard. Now you're going to practice fully exhaling, which is a huge part of this whole practice. So you're going to take a breath in through your nose. And I can't hear you because you're all muted, but if you weren't, I should be able to hear the exhale. It's long, slow, and just practice fully exhaling. You're getting every inch of air out, and then just breathe in normal. And then continue to do that. And start counting. See if you can get to 10 to 12 seconds. So if you can't, you got to slow it down. Now notice what your rib cage does as you fully exhale. And take a break. So we're gonna go to the first move, laying on your back, feet on the ground. So elbows bent at 90 degrees, fingertips are up towards the ceiling. So you're gonna start with one arm up. So notice when I reach my arm up, my chest kind of rotates to the side. But make sure your arm's not going out to the side. It's perpendicular to the ground, like straight up and down. But it's reaching up so much that your chest does start to rotate. As you exhale through your mouth, like you just practiced, you're going to slowly bring it down. Exhale, exhale, exhale. Inhale, reach the other arm up. So if you're coming down, you're exhaling slow. And then coming up, inhaling. Go ahead and get started. Encourage you to close your eyes and really pay attention to where your hands are. And it's one at a time. As you're slowly bringing it down, you're exhaling through your mouth, deflating your whole body, and then inhale, reach your arm up. Each inhale, think of reaching a little more. And if you get distracted, just go back to your hands. And take a break. Now you're gonna flip over, hands and knees, or elbows and knees. So it's a less exaggerated cat-cow. So the two things that you're paying attention to. So throughout the whole entire thing, there's always stuff to pay attention to. This time, it's your back pockets. So your back pockets right here, they're either gonna be pulled down or they're either gonna be pulled up. So you're on all fours. Inhale, back pockets get pulled down. And then exhale, back pockets get pulled up. Inhale, back pockets down. Exhale, back pockets up. And just go back and forth. Inhale, back pockets get pulled down towards your knees. Exhale, back pockets are up. And think of only moving through your hips. And go slow. Inhale, tuck the tailbone. Exhale, untuck. And take a break. Now you're going to be doing the same thing, laying on your back. So you're gonna, no breathing on this one. This one, you're really paying attention to the move that you're doing with your hips, which is just rolling them. You're never actually just picking them up. So you're gonna untuck, and then you're gonna tuck, going the other way, rolling your hips where your tailbone slightly comes off the ground. And then slowly go back to the other part. Untuck your hips, low back slightly comes off the ground, and then go the other way. On this one, everybody's different on how comfortable they are arching their back, so whatever feels good. You're going from untucking to tucking. And you should feel your hips rocking on the ground, rolling. Just really pay attention to the motion that you're doing. And then also bring the awareness to your feet. And I want you to notice the position that you feel when you tuck your hips and your low back goes on the ground. Because here on the next move, you're gonna have to hold that position when your legs are off the ground. So we're gonna go back to the reaching. So Laura, actually keep your feet on the ground for this one and just ignore the legs component. So what you're gonna do, you're gonna find a position that's challenging. So as long as you can keep low back on the ground, this makes it easier, this makes it harder. So as long as you're challenged and keeping the position, you're gonna do the same thing. Inhale, reach the arm up. Exhale, slowly drop. Inhale, up. Slowly drop. And keep your low back on the ground. You should definitely feel abs. If you start to feel your low back, you're just gonna bring your legs down on the ground. Inhale, reach up, exhale, slowly go down. And then Laura, you can do the reaching. Yeah, perfect. And rest. Now you're gonna go back to the all fours on your elbows. Exhale, back pockets get pulled up. Inhale, back down. Notice your elbows as well with your hands. Push your hands, all 10 fingers into the ground. So you've got your elbows, your hands, and then your back pockets. Go slow as long as your exhale. Awesome job, guys. And then back to the glute bridge. Hip width apart. Get your knees straight, like if there's a ball between them, don't let them drive out. And this time you're gonna hold the top position, the glute bridge position, for about 2 seconds before you slowly bring it back down. And then you're gonna roll, peel your hips off the ground slowly, hold for a few seconds, and back down. Just notice the motion you're doing with your hips, which is rolling them. And all the weight goes on with your feet. Think your feet are pushing your hips up, and then they're controlling your hips on the way down. If you get distracted, go back to the rolling. Go back to the muscles that you're feeling. Should be glutes and hamstrings. And take a break. And now you'll go back to laying on your back. To find that position that's challenging, keeping your low back on the ground. Inhale, reach up. Exhale, down. Reach your shoulder off the ground. Let your chest rotate with you. And rest. Then you're gonna go back to all fours. This time, you're gonna continue to pull the back pockets down so much that it pulls the rest of your spine with you. So you're starting out here on the exhale, and then inhale, they're getting pulled down, they continue to pull down, and your whole spine comes with. And then back to the exhale. So you're moving your whole back, but it's all being driven by your hips. You might feel a little bit of hamstrings. Make sure your knees are about hip width apart, not too wide. And take a break. Back to the glute bridge. You're gonna go about 3 different holds. So start out by rolling your hips. You'll go halfway up. Once you're halfway up, really push down into your feet and hold this position. And just pay attention to the muscles that you feel working, which should be hamstrings and glutes, and then the weight on your feet. And just hold it. And what I want you to think is because you're pushing into your feet, that's how you're able to hold your hips in that position. So by pushing into your feet, you're able to leverage hamstrings and glutes. Make sure your knees aren't driving out. And rest. And just feel everything relax. You're gonna go again here in a second. Whenever you're ready, start rolling your hips one vertebrae at a time and peeling off the ground. Now go back to your feet. They're holding your hips up in that position. And rest. We got one more here soon. Now slowly start peeling. Roll your hips. If your hamstrings ever start cramping, it's better to just start all over. And rest. Nice job. So what you can do is lay with your legs straight and put the pillow underneath your knees. I'm going to practice the exhaling with the hold. We do this one every time. Okay, so a lot of the times with this one, a lot of people actively brace their abs. I don't want that to happen. You are going to feel a ton of tension get created at the end of that exhale, but that's only created because you're exhaling. So don't actively brace your abs. So what you'll do is in through the nose, you're laying on your back. You're exhaling, 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 exhaling until it gets uncomfortable. You're going to feel all this tension. Hold for 5 seconds. And in those 5 seconds, I want you to acknowledge all the muscles on. And as you breathe in, completely let them go. And you're just alternating from holding on and then letting go as you breathe in. So it's in through the nose. Full breath out through your mouth. 10 to 12 seconds. And then hold for 5 seconds as you pay attention to all the muscles that you just created the tension for. And then as you relax, the breath in should be automatic. And this one should feel pretty uncomfortable sometimes. And that's normal, especially the hold. And you can even say it in your head, holding on and then letting go as you breathe in. And just feel your whole body relax as you breathe in. And rest. You'll flip back over on all fours, this time on your hands. If you want less load in the upper body, you can push your hips back and do it this way, here. If not, you can go all fours, and what you're doing is you're exhaling as you drop, so you're evenly dropping through your chest, And it's not going to be very much. So you have to go very slow because it has to last as long as your exhale. And then inhale, push into the hands, reach your chest up towards the ceiling. What I don't want is for you to arch like this. So exhale, evenly drop through the shoulders. Inhale through your nose as you push away. And then make a conscious effort of not shrugging, not using your neck. It's all shoulders. And very similar to your feet, your hands are controlling you on the way down, and then they're pushing you on the way up. And rest. Now we're going into tall kneeling hold. 2 knees down, or tall kneeling tucking, I should say. 2 knees down, a little wider than hip width apart. So you don't want to come in too close. So what you'll do is you're going to hinge back a little bit. So reach your hips back. And from that position, you're going to do the same thing you were doing here, but it's going to be less motion. The back pockets get pulled down, and then you untuck. And then inhale, back pockets down, and then you untuck. You shouldn't really feel much abs because it's the back pockets, the glutes and the hamstrings that are doing it. So just hinge back, inhale, down, exhale. And make sure your hips aren't moving in space. So here, notice how I'm not shoving forward. So I'm keeping them there. And inhale, tuck, exhale, untuck. And take a break. Now you're going to go back to your back for the exhaling. Same thing, full breath out, hold on, and then let go. And allow the letting go dictate your inhale. So let it automatically happen. If you're not feeling a bunch of tension build up, exhale longer. Make it slower so it can be more prolonged. Start holding the air out a little longer. Go 6, 7 seconds. If it gets too uncomfortable, continue the 3 to 5. But you can let it get a little more uncomfortable. And rest. Back to all fours. You're dropping on the exhale. Think evenly through the shoulders. So the weight should be distributed the same on both sides. Inhale, big push away. Make a conscious effort of unshrugging. And using your shoulders and your hands. Now on this last one, stay up there. So push up, you're not shrugging. So notice how you just pushed your chest up. Now don't let the chest drop or your rib cage drop as you start alternating your arm tapping on one shoulder. So don't let anything move. You're keeping the nice long reach. Mm-hmm. And then Autumn, you could also go like here too. And rest. Now you're gonna go back to the tall kneeling, tucking. So everybody put your hands on the front of your hips and you're gonna hinge back a little bit. As you inhale and the back pockets get pulled down, your hips should not be pushing into your hands. So inhale, back pockets down. Exhale, they roll. Inhale, they roll up. So they're going straight up, not forward at all. And take a break. Back to laying on your back. And now you're not letting go of the tension on the breath in. You keep the tension as you breathe in. So instead of relaxing everything, you breathe underneath it. And the inhale should feel much deeper. So exhaling the same. Hold for 5 seconds. Another way to keep the tension is think of keeping your low back on the ground as you take a breath in. Now feel like you're not getting enough air in. That's normal. And rest. You're gonna go one more on this. So whenever you're ready, in through the nose, full breath out. Don't let go of the tension. Think of keeping your low back into the ground as you take a breath in. And rest. Now you're gonna go one more all fours. You're gonna hold it. So you're gonna push up with your arms, and then on you can go here, and then you're gonna take one hand, tap it on one shoulder, and hold it as you're doing the breathing. So you're not dropping, you're just pushing the whole time, but it's as if both hands are pushing. So my other side is not allowed to rotate. Full breath out. You'll notice more abs on one side than the other. So reach with both, take one hand, tap it on one side, and just breathe.
And what's the breathing pattern again when we go down versus when we go up?
On this one, you'll just stay up and just hang out there the whole time. So you're exhaling as you're reaching and you're inhaling as you're staying there. Awesome. And we'll switch a few times. So go ahead and switch. And just keep breathing. And keep pushing with your arm. Keep reaching. And now switch. And your chest should not be dropping. Your ribs shouldn't be dropping to the ground. Now switch. And rest. You're gonna go back to tall kneeling. This time you're just holding and breathing. So same setup, a little bit of a hinge back, pull the back pockets down, and then just hold in through the nose, full breath out. As you're paying all the attention is the position of your hips. And that is the same position you're going to be holding when you squat here in a second. And take a break. So the squat. This is one where you work with what you have, and as long as your hips are underneath you, not behind you. So hip width apart, feet straight ahead. You're not going to go very far. So you're going to do the same thing that you've just been practicing. The back pockets get pulled down. So notice if my knees are straight and I pull my back pockets down, they almost automatically bend a little bit. From there, I'm dropping down. That's plenty. You don't want to drop back. So tuck your hips, drop straight down. If this is all you can do where it feels good, that's fine. And just hold in through the nose, full breath out. And Max, get it taller through your chest. Yes, that's better. And Becca, tuck a little more. And now push into your feet as you come up. Cool. And the next one is walk out. So on wrist, and anyone else who has any wrist issues, you can go supine march. That way you're still getting abs. If your wrists are fine, what you're gonna do is you're gonna round over, walk yourself out into a push-up position. You're exhaling. And then as you inhale, you push back up, butt up in the air. And then exhale, walk with your hands, and you're always pushing away as you're doing the move. So either walk out, and then Laura, you could go keep your low back on the ground and tap. Exhale, you're walking towards your hands, always pushing. And then inhale, butt up in the air. And rest. You're gonna go back to your squat. So here, pull the back pockets down and squat a little bit. So Alexander, shoot your knees forward. Yep, right there. Tuck more. Keep tucking. Hold that position. Nice. And same thing, think of your feet holding you there. And because you're pushing down into your feet, that's how you're able to hold that position. And then to come out of it, push into your feet as you stand up, hips underneath you. Awesome. And then back to walkouts or dead bug. And you're exhaling as you walk towards your hands into the push-up position. You're always reaching. And then inhale, butt up in the air. Nice job. And then back to the squat. Feet straight ahead, hip width apart. Same thing you practice, back pocket down. Little taller, Max, to your chest. Try not to crunch. Keep tucking, Alexander. There. Back to your feet. You're pushing into your feet. And then push up. Your last set of walkouts or dead bug. And rest. And you go back to your back. And you're going to finish with what you started with, which is just paying attention to your regular breathing, specifically where you feel the expansion. And see if you could just hold on to that with your attention the whole time. You're either deflating or inflating. And just find a comfortable spot. And then whenever you're ready, start moving around. Nice job, guys. Everyone looked great. How was that, Laura?
It's great, thank you.
Cool. All the moves were okay?
Yes.
Cool. Does anyone have any questions or ran into issues with any of those?
Yeah, Lucy, I got a question for you.
Mhm.
I was super quaddy for a lot of things. Was it just the nature of the programming to kind of be conducive to that? Or is there something maybe I should think about working on a little bit better, like tucking, feeling more hamstrings and glutes?
This question actually came up this morning too. I felt it too. Probably because your quads are tight, and you'll see that mostly with people who are strong. So if you would want more glutes and hamstrings, instead of hook lying, I would go more 90-90. Because in hook lying, you are already bending your knee more than you would in 90-90. So you're already stretching the quad even more. And then you're also tucking, and you require more hip extension in the hook lying position. So that means the quad's going to be even more on stretch. So if you're in the 90-90, that loosens this up, and then maybe you can feel more here. And then more hinging. I don't remember your tall kneeling, but if you hinge back even more, same concept, the quad tends to relax a little bit, so then you can get some glutes and hamstrings.
Awesome, thank you.
Mm-hmm. Anyone else?
Yeah, so the squatting, like I couldn't do at all. The tucking, really, I have like lumbar and sacrum issues. Could that be what's prohibiting me in the standing from being able to move my hips and tuck?
It would be hard to say, but are you able to do it in the quadruped position?
Yes.
So there you are doing the same motion, but you are right, standing is a lot harder to get in that position. So I would either go with what I told Max about hinging a little more, or using some assistance. Like I will use a barbell. So I start everybody with this squat, but I'll use a barbell where they can hold on. And what you can do with the barbell is you can help your body distribute load a little differently.
Mm,
So you can take some weight off your back, and then you can really focus on like, okay, tuck, feeling my hamstrings, and you're just using like a doorway or a handle to do that. So
that
if you
makes
want,
sense.
yeah, if you want to try that on your own and see if you can get in the position where you're not feeling that.
Yeah. Okay.
Then another squat variation would be like a wall squat, where you're leaning against the wall. Do you know which one that one is?
Yeah. Yep.
To practice that.
Okay, that makes sense. Thanks.
Another thing too is, so if someone can't do a move, maybe they don't have access to that motion, and they're running into an ability to continue to move, and now that puts extra weight and puts load on areas that they're feeling pain. So if you're seeing that and you ask yourself, okay, so what is it required for someone to squat? So if we're talking breathing, what's required for you to squat?
Bracing.
Huh?
Bracing.
Breathing?
Bracing.
Bracing?
Yeah,
Oh, bracing. Yes, I'm looking more of like what mechanics of respiration require you to, or you need to be able to squat. So I'll say it in 3 different ways. Level 1, you need to be able to have access to axial inhalation mechanics. So if I take that a step down, you need to be able to flex your spine. Like you need to be able to have access to flexion of your whole entire spine. And if I want to take it down to another level, in a basic, like overall picture, you need to be able to inflate your low back, mid back, upper back. So that's what I mean by inhalation. Like you need to be able to expand back there. And if you can't expand back there, you're going to have a hard time squatting. So I'll show you what that looks like from far, just so you can see the visual. So I'm going to exaggerate, but if I can't Can you see how this might look like I can't breathe into my low back?
Mm-hmm.
Like this can't expand.
Yeah.
So if I can't do that, I'm not going to be able to squat. And then maybe, you can't say for sure ever, but that might be why someone might feel a little bit more low back. So if I'm able to inhale my low back and have access to that, you're going to be able to have a better squat. If you're having issues with that, you can find exercises that give you access to that motion. One of them is the rock back exercise. Can you see my spine position?
Mm-hmm.
Nice and smooth and rounded, like not like this, not flat like this. So if I really nail down this exercise, can you see how that would impact my ability to squat?
For sure.
So what I would do is I would find things, Becca, where you're getting access to more expansion in your low back, mid back, upper back.
Yep.
And that's things like rock back. Short seated is also a really good position. People who are very flexible like me, it can be this here. You would go, and you should feel that expand. For people who are less flexible, put them like on a small plyo box.
Got it. Yep.
But then also working on the squat will also help you achieve that. But if that's not working, that's when you start to bring back down the layers. So, okay, if you were a client, you told me that squat hurt me, I can't squat, then I would immediately bring it back to a couple things that you can do. Like, okay, Becca, can you do the tucking on all fours? Like, okay, yeah, that's good. I'm like, awesome. Can you do the short seated position right here? And then you do that. Like, yeah, that feels fine. I'm like, oh, that's amazing. So you can squat. You're just in the same position. We just have to be able to bridge that gap because this is the same as this. And then I would show you the similarities. And that way you wouldn't really demonize that squat. And you would just realize that you might not be ready for it. But trying those, a few of those things can help. Did that answer your question?
Yeah, it did. Thank you.
Another thing too, I would have said is, oh, the whole time or towards the end? Because if you were able to get like 4 good breaths and not feel anything, but then like you're hanging out there longer, then we would just bring it down to what you have.
Right. Yep.
So that could also be another thing. And good question. Anything else?
Lucy, would you mind like a client-specific question?
Mm-hmm.
So I work with one kid who wears a chest binder as like a trans guy. And so I've sort of, I've tried doing some of like the 90-90 kind of things with him. And based on what you said last week about maybe like a seated position where you don't have the ground might give you more expansion, just because thinking like that person's options for where air can go are different. And so I was just wondering, like, intuitively, if anything around, like, working with someone who may be wearing, like, a chest compression, like, if there's any kinds of things, like, you may not, like, any sort of cues that you may focus on more than others, just because you don't want to, do something that that person doesn't have super access to. I'm sure it's individualized, but, would you focus more on tucking as opposed to, the exhale, inhale, or other positions that intuitively you might feel would be a better fit?
Yeah, well, it sounds like you're already doing what I would do, like focus on other things that they can be successful in. It made me think we have a client, and I didn't really think about that affecting, and maybe that's why I have problems with him. Would you feel comfortable, like, do you think that's like a limiting factor to him, like, moving better?
I think, he's able to do a lot of the strength stuff, doesn't like the cardio kinds of things as much, but with the breathing, it sort of is hard to tell if his ribs are moving really. Like, I can't really see sort of the up and down so much. And I'm sort of thinking, is it the position that's not giving him access, or is it the compression? So
Gotcha.
maybe just trying a few other positions like the ones you've suggested, maybe seeing what connects.
Yeah, and then you just go by feeling. And that is a similar approach that I take with someone who's extremely overweight. I don't want to, sometimes I can't tell, or maybe I can't tell if they're tucked or untucked. So I just go by feeling. Like, what do you feel? And as long as they're not feeling it in the wrong places, then I have to go by that, because sometimes you can't tell.
Okay.
And then just continue to cue that. But if you end up thinking that is a limiting factor, if you feel comfortable asking him, do you ever like not wear that at home? If he's that kind of client that wants to do homework and stuff like that, you could say, I would try these without the support.
That's a good idea, because yeah, you obviously couldn't do that at a gym, but maybe at home if they had that comfort. Yeah.
And then you just bring it back to what makes it meaningful for them. So it's like if seeing issues, like his upper body is just not moving well, or his squat is not cleaning up, you can bring it back to that. Like, hey, I'd be curious. This is like my manipulative way of getting people to do something. I'm like, I'd be curious if we did the breathing without the support, just because I'm seeing some limitations on the training floor that could maybe get better with some breathing. Like, would you be open to trying rock back variations at home? So something like that.
So it just doesn't feel like out of left field. It stays connected.
Yeah, and you're always experimenting. So you're never really like saying this is going to fix you. You're just like, I'm curious what would happen.
I have a further question about the squat. A lot of my clients are older and have knee problems. What would be your next step if they say, I can't squat without basically turning it into a hinge?
I would go wall.
Okay.
They can't turn it into a hinge.
Right.
And sometimes it does bother people to bring their knees forward. But I think that might just be like a tissue tolerance deal where they've never done that before. So then, things get inflamed for a little bit. So what I tell people is, knees going forward is totally fine as long as you got heel contact and as long as you got tuck, you should be good. But sometimes people struggle with that. So if you put them on a ramp or on a barbell, like I said, I hold with my clients, they're not going to bring their knees forward. Like, they just don't want to.
Right.
But if you put them on the wall, you can control where their feet go, and they have no option but to drive their knees forward. And then there, you work your way into driving the knees forward more and more, keeping heel contact.
Great. Thank you.
Same thing, like if it bothers them. Like, no, that was too much. I'm like, okay, so let's work with what you have. Let's find the position that doesn't bother you. And then we'll work from there. But yeah, wall's definitely the one for people who don't drive their knees out. Even if you're like, no, bring your knee to my hand. Yeah, good question. Any other question? Cool.
It's not really a question.
Yeah.
Just more of a comment that I noticed when I was doing the tucking on the squat. And so I had to get my breathing under control because I'm focusing on the glutes and the feet and everything. So it's like, I'm kind of like in a panic. But once I got it under control, it was really cool to see how unobstructed my breathing felt when I was in that position. So that was really cool to notice.
Nice. Compared to when you're laying on your back.
Yeah, it was just so clear. Just I could get such a big inhale and exhale. It felt really smooth.
Awesome. Yeah, and you'll see that because you have everywhere to expand. So you have access to your entire rib cage versus laying on your back, and now you're laying on a flat surface and probably cutting some motion there. Yeah, that's awesome. Cool. That's it?
Okay, one more squat question.
Yeah.
So you asked us to have our feet straight forward and hip width apart. And that's how, I squat that way, but what about that? Why this, not that, with feet and legs?
You're able to, I found that as soon as I started squatting people by flexing, getting them access to expand their back, I found that people are able to squat with a narrow stance no matter what. But I also squat almost everybody on ramps. Every person goes on a ramp. and then they sometimes come off the ramp when the load is heavy enough to where the load is now making the squat look good. I started doing that when I went to iFast 2016, and everybody was squatting with ramps, and everybody was squatting with narrow stance, and everybody was like, oh wow, that looks really good. So since then I've been doing that, and I don't find myself needing to go with a wider stance. Because if they go wider, they are going to hinge a little more versus here, which is what I want. The times that
You haven't had any problems with clients unable to do narrow stance?
yes, if they have like -5 degrees of internal rotation.
Okay.
So, and you can check when you try to check internal, like they're already like externally rotated, and you can't even get them to like the middle position.
Okay.
So, or you can do it seated too. So if they don't have any internal rotation, you can try widening their stance a little bit. But out of all of our clients, 3 of them that we've had to get a little wider. One had really bad arthritis and in her hip, and then the other 2 were a little overweight, and then they had 0 internal rotation on both hips.
It's really interesting. Thank you.
Yeah. And then if you look up Zach Couples' heels elevated squat or ramp squat, he did a debrief on it, and he explains like the purpose of it. But what ends up happening is, one, it gets rid of the ankle limitation if people have one. So now I'm able to load people a lot faster instead of waiting for them to have a decent looking squat. So I'm able to give them what they want a lot faster just by putting people on a ramp. So it's going to push people forward, so then they're going to have to compensate and come back. And the other thing that it does is allows you to tuck and go straight down. And you can try this yourself. Try to do the squat you just did, and then as soon as you elevate your heels, you're able to drop down. So it lets my clients have prettier looking squats faster, so then I can progress them faster.
I love what you just said, though, that it allows you to for them to load the squat, which is what they want. Oftentimes they'll come in, but I want to lift things. I want to, do heavy things. So I like that.
Yeah, because if I waited for it to look good,
Yeah.
barefoot or without that, it would probably be a lot longer.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Cool. Awesome questions. Well, I'm going to go make tacos.
Yeah.
Eat tacos like 5 times a week. Well, thank you for attending.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye. See you next time.
Thank you.